Morning, Mr. Raymond Aqua.
Good morning.
I hope you had a lovely weekend.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Unlike your very good self and those who are using the Kumasi
Oh, the
highway,
Kumasi, no,
and there are many
no.
complaints about heavy traffic.
Yes.
And it's not the only place. If you have consistently used the Mankasim Stretch 2, just around the roundabout, can be there for almost an hour.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what we don't call it highways nowadays, but there's a problem with how people have to stay in traffic on very, very good roads for a very long time, and we are not fixing it, and becomes a problem. Then days after that, you hear the roads minister says everything is on course and we are fixing everything,
Yeah.
and that his
But
tenure has seen the biggest improvement on that particular stretch. The evidence was this weekend, really.
Yeah. And in fact, not just this weekend, but on market days, Mankasim is a nightmare.
That's
You know,
terrible.
the thing is, look, I mean, this is what I'm trained in. It is the height of incompetence for there to be only one way to get from A to B. You can't plan any civilization that way. Not even a shanty town.
So if
should be
there's a
planned that way.
small accident, there's a small everything comes.
Then
to standstill.
everything comes to a standstill. I mean, it's just incompetent. But of course, we have financial constraints as a nation. Let's be fair, so we can't just be building the roads left and right. But we do have to be strategic, So before we go and grade some road that is of no economic value, not leading to any place, we should be thinking
Just
about.
because it's around somebody's hometown.
We should be thinking about some of these other, things that will bring economic value to us.
And talking about economic value, I think one of the things that should be done, and I think that would be done soon, is to have the private sector constructing good roads for us, intercity roads,
and tolling
and
them.
toll it.
Yeah.
So you get to pay. You use the road, you pay. If the road is good, I mean, there's nobody who would use the road and say, I won't pay the toll because the road is good. Look, from Accra to Kumasi, which normally would take you 3.5 hours, it took us 6 hours, and we left early. So it took
early.
us 6 hours. The moment we went past Enyinim,
Yeah.
those who got to Enyinim were in traffic for about 7 hours. You can imagine. So,
Last one. I missed my flight to Takrady on Friday. So I had to get someone to drive me there on Saturday at dawn. My plan was to leave at 4:30, avoid Kaswa and all of that business, and get there in about 3.5 hours. That would be reasonable if you are driving at the speed limit. I got there at 11 because I overslept and didn't leave my house till 5:15.
Just the 45 minutes difference.
So 5:15 to 11. That's how long it took me to get to Takrady.
Interesting.
well, and talking about that, let's get into our Drive Safe campaign here on the Super Morning Show, brought to us by Joy News and the Multimedia Group, and supported by Logistics Movers. We help you relocate, and Toyota Ghana Company Limited, Toyota, superior quality. So avoid all distractions, keep both eyes on the road and hands on the steering wheel, be visible, drive with your lights on, and that's how you ensure your safe arrival.
If you're thinking of the safest, hassle-free, and the most secure way of relocating or transporting your goods, then Logistics Movers is here for you with a professional and cost-effective way of moving your office and household items within and outside Accra or wherever you're going on the planet. Logistics Movers has what it takes to put a smile on your face, and that is their hallmark. Contact them. They are on these two numbers, 050-127-7363 and 030-291-8349. You can go check out logisticsmovers.com or email info@logisticsmovers.com. Logistics Movers, we help you relocate.
So we know that selling your used car can sometimes be very stressful, and that's why Toyota Ghana Company Limited says you don't have to stress anymore. If you desire to sell your used Toyota car purchased from Toyota Ghana Company Limited, then visit any of our branch offices and exchange your car for cash. Yes, believe it, it's that simple. Toyota Ghana has interest to purchase your used Toyota vehicle bought from them. Just bring your used Toyota vehicle and receive cash. Walk away with the right resale value for your used Toyota vehicle. And kindly note, this offer is limited to vehicles sold and serviced by Toyota Ghana Company Limited. Visit any of our branches for more details or call 0552-761616 or 0552-760924. Toyota Ghana Company is proud to be associated with Joy FM and Joy News. Drive Safe tips on the Super Morning Show. Toyota, superior quality.
Superior quality. All right, now Say It Right is brought to you this morning, as always, by Korba Payment App. Korba, our lives simplified.
something must be done.
It's Monday and we have a rare word alert for you. Luxuriant. What a lovely word. Luxuriant. Luxuriant. And no, it does not mean luxurious. It means rich, lush, growing profusely, fruitful, yielding abundantly, thick, fertile. Let me use it in a sentence. Poirot absent-mindedly twirled the end of his luxuriant mustache. Anyway, the word luxuriant can be traced back to the Latin word luxuriare, which means to grow profusely or to have in excess. Luxuriant. That is how you say it right. Yeah, that's how you say it right. Okay, so weekends are for chilling, they say, but with Korba, every minute of your time is like a party. Korba makes life simple. It allows you to transfer funds across all bank accounts or mobile money wallets, to top up airtime and data, to pay your insurance, TV, utility bills, and so much more with pleasure anytime and anywhere. In addition, you get a free life insurance cover while you make your payments with Korba. This is more than you expected, I know. Use Korba and enjoy life's little pleasures. Download the Korba app, Korba, on Play Store or App Store, or access it via the WhatsApp channel 0242 426 186, or just dial *365#. Korba, our lives simplified.
If owning a new home, buying a second home, or buying a land to build your dream home is one of your goals for 2021, then here's some real help from First National Bank. Because First National Bank has declared 2021 as a year of home ownership, YOHO 2021 to help make home ownership a reality for many Ghanaians. YOHO 2021 offers a unique opportunity for all resident and non-resident Ghanaians to access First National Bank suite of home loan offers, get relevant advice on home ownership, and guidance to overcome some of the hurdles like documentation, titles, and credit history. Indeed, home ownership provides stability and wealth-building opportunities, and you can buy your dream home from our partner developers or choose to complete that project you started years ago. Take advantage of First National Bank's competitive interest rates, and I promise to give you a decision on your home loan application in 5 working days, provided all requirements are met. Accept the YOHO 2021 challenge and apply for a home loans facility to ensure you are on the housing ladder by end of 2021. Call First National Bank on 0242 435050 or 0800 770522, or send a mail at ghanahomeloans@firstnationalbank.com.gh for more information. YOHO 2021, moving you from a tenant to a homeowner. First National Bank, how can we help you?
How can we help you? All right, so it's time for us to do the news review brought to us by Star Assurance, your solid partner. But first, over the weekend, news of Ghana's debt stock. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is because some of us have been complaining that the Bank of Ghana has not been releasing the figures or updating it on the website since the beginning of the year. So it was interesting to have found out that we got really to know that there was a release which suggested that we had moved from 291.6 billion to 304 billion in March. And also gave us what happened in January and February too. So it was interesting to have the data out there. The other interesting part is that this was 70.2% of GDP. So debt over your GDP is what gives you the debt to GDP ratio. Yes, and compared to the higher figure we had ending December 2020, some people were asking why that should be the case.
How our debt to GDP can go down.
Yes, but the explanation was pretty clear. We use the debt and we use a projected GDP for end year 2021. So a higher projected GDP will show that the debt will definitely come down without having to do any other thing within the space. So the reason why debt to GDP is in fact lower than December 2020, despite the debt going up, is because we use a projected higher GDP, which is for 2021. Now,
So we use our current debt,
yes,
but we put it against our projected GDP.
yeah,
All right. Now, this is not the first time we've done this.
No, it's not.
In the past, under Mahama,
yeah,
this happened.
yeah,
And at the time, the vice presidential candidate of the NPP, Dr. Baumia, who is now vice president, had this to say.
Mr. Chairman, with this major increase in the debt, Ghana's debt to GDP ratio has increased from 32% in 2008 to 72%. The calculation of the debt to GDP ratio used by the minister is just plain wrong and misleading. The government has taken the total debt stock in May 2016 and divided it by the projected GDP in December 2016 to arrive at the debt to GDP ratio of 63%. This is statistical gimmickry. If you ask the minister how he achieved this dramatic reduction in the debt to GDP ratio in either January 2016 or May 2016, he will be unable to tell you. All that has happened is that he has used a higher projected GDP number to do the calculation.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
It is, because the same thing has been done now, because, end of 2020 GDP of 383 billion, and we have a projected GDP of 433 billion by end of 2021, and we have done same under the circumstance. I was just checking the U.S. First quarter 2021 debt to GDP ratio. It's 127%. Now, what that tells you that it is doable. As we speak, we know the country's growth rate for end of first quarter. So you use that to actually calculate your debt to GDP ratio, because you know by what percentage you have grown your economy. And based on that, you can then do the calculations. It is done. Others do it. And so I agree with Dr. Bamia when he made the point in 2016. In fact, at the time, we used it for questioning those who were in authority. I remember speaking to Mona Court, and I put that to her. Why would you use a projected GDP? Dr. Abiy at the time would say, Joe Abiy, that's always been the practice.
Yeah.
But when Dr. Bamia questioned that, we felt there was going to be a departure. It's not too late. There should be a departure from that. We don't have to consistently use projected GDP, because the thing about, and that's why it's projected GDP, you may or may not even achieve it.
So is that what we've done for the past 5 years?
Yes, that's what we've done.
Yes, that's what we've
Yes,
done.
that's what we do.
So then it wasn't gimmickry, or was it?
It wasn't, in effect, because we acknowledge that there is always a mismatch in the availability of the data.
Yes.
So the statistical service is supposed to provide the GDP figures. The statistical service, by the end of the first quarter, that's March, may not have the figures available. Ideally, it is in May that the statistical service will release the first quarter one. In fact, recently, the statistical service just released the end year for 2020. You get the point. So we are always lagging behind. That's why we do that kind of engagement. But it was made to look like it was a deliberate attempt to play down debt to GDP ratio. But when you do so now, then the question is that, so are you using the same method? Because let's look at it from the broader spectrum. Now, as we sit here, there are questions that will be asked about our debt. That's why it is an important topic.
Yeah.
Because people are still asking the questions, why are we still at 3 or 4 billion in this case? What's happening to the economy? But you see, one point we should note, you can use this for a period. If oil revenues do not come in to boost your economy, if the economy does not grow to meet up your projected, by the end of the year, the real situation will be shown. I hope you get the point. So the GDP will be stagnant, whether you like it or not. Your projected will stay. But the debt will keep increasing over the period, because we have always had plans to borrow till the end of the year.
Yes.
That is why the AFDB and co. And recently, even Moody's said that we are more likely to target 80%
But you see,
of debt to GDP ratio.
let me just say this finally. The other point is, now, based on our debt to GDP ratio, it means we have space to borrow. And you could be deceiving yourself. Because by the end of the year, when you do your calculation again, you may come to the realization that, hold on a minute, I got it wrong. So it's important to use current figures, current GDP figures, in calculating your debt to GDP ratio to give you the right picture about where you are as a country. If you're using the projected debt to GDP, by end of first quarter, for instance, it means that, we've actually reduced our debt to GDP from 76% to 70%. In that case, you can say, if I go out there to borrow, there's not much of a problem. The other good thing, though, is that if I were to use this and go out to the market, I would not be seeing as a country that is very highly likely to default in payment.
Okay.
So the interest rates may not be very high. Because if I am around 80%, which is highly unsustainable, anybody who's giving you money would say, this person may default. So they give you very high interest rates, and based on that, your interest payments would increase. So look at it.
Just are we going to go back to this conversation maybe later on?
I doubt it. I think we'd better exhaust it now.
I wanted to point out one issue. When Moody's put out this statement, it talked that in Sub-Saharan Africa, the Outlook report said Ghana's debt to GDP ratio will hit 80% in 2021. Now, it moves on to say something interesting. It said the higher external vulnerabilities indicators, which are a measure of short-term debt and upcoming external debt maturities against international reserves, will be more challenging for sovereign outside of monetary unions, and picked out Zambia and Ghana will see the greatest EVI pressures, with 2021 levels forecast to be 509% in Zambia and 143% in Ghana. The AFDB also has some indication of how we are going to be in some trouble along the line if we don't fix the current situation. And it says Ghana's ability to push economic growth to its pre-crisis level is expected to be constrained by fiscal and debt risk. So obviously the indicators are there, and we are not, in fairness, doing the things that will take us out of this debt situation. Even before, and if you read the AFDP report, even before we came into COVID, our debt situation was trending in a terrible direction.
Right.
So it's not really entirely the problem with COVID, as it has been always said around and made to look like. We can turn things around if we go back to what has worked in times past or devise very wonderful means of getting it done. Basically, if we want to really reduce our debt to GDP ratio properly, what we need to do is either grow the economy. Grow it well so that the denominator will increase, or reduce the borrowing. If we either grow the economy or reduce the borrowing, one of these will directly. But there are more complex issues at play.
Or maybe increase our revenue generation. Block all the leakages. And we are good to go. You see, I told you, in 2015, in April, then Deputy Commissioner of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Doku, wrote a letter to the Deputy Chief of Staff indicating that we lost 36 billion Ghana cedis at the ports. In fact, that year, he said, estimated, we lose about 60 billion Ghana cedis through revenue leakages.
Jesus Christ.
So watch this critically. We're losing billions of Ghana cedis. And one of the things we should be thinking of doing, is to block these leakages. It is doable. It is doable. And we should be able to do it. I mean, this is not rocket science. It has been done elsewhere. Let us do it.
You remove the human factor. You let systems work. You automate as much as you can. And that's it. That's really the first step towards, but I wanted to get a conclusion on this because I've heard both of you say, I agreed with Bawumia at the time, Dr. Bawumia at the time, but I've also heard you saying this is the wrong way to do it when it comes to using projected figures. So I want to know, because you heard Dr. Bawumia there saying that this is plain wrong. Those were his words.
Yes.
Using projected figures is plain wrong. Is it plain wrong?
No, to be fair, I mean, our current circumstances, we don't have an option. Unless we have a very robust system that produces data on GDP consistently, we still will have to go by this particular method. The only problem is when you do not do any fictitious projection of GDP, 1. 2, when you are unable to meet up your very GDP demands, that means that your debt to GDP ratio will go high and it will be problematic. When you are unable to also do the proper things with borrowing, cut back or do it in a smart way. Sector introduced the word that was controversial.
Smart borrowing.
Smart borrowing. If you're unable to do things like that, which will really result in a reduction of the rate of debt accumulation, you certainly will find yourself in trouble. That's what really the problem.
I think that there's something we can do about it. So long as the Ghana Statistical Service releases figures for the first quarter, you use that to calculate. Look, the point is, you see, I mean, when we do what we're doing,
But that will come later.
yes,
That will
but you
not
see,
come
but you see,
now.
Raymond,
That's the point.
currently, we are releasing figures of how the economy performed in the first quarter.
No, we don't have it yet.
Yes, I'm saying
Yeah.
we're working on the figures.
Yeah.
We need to get those figures, use those figures to actually calculate it. What we are doing is to give yourself a sense of false hope. we're telling ourselves that our debt to GDP is what? It is, 70%, 70.2%. The reality on the ground, as we know, is that
should be way
currently
higher than that.
our debt to GDP ratio is not 70.2%. And so, why don't you tell yourself the true picture of your economy? We can do that. Okay, we can do that. We can do that. And so what do? You invest into the data collection, gathering, and analysis of the Ghana Statistical Service to provide you real-time data. Based on that, it enhances even your planning. You know that, okay, so this is what we anticipated. At the end of the first quarter, we're not achieving that. What do we do to ensure that we're able to grow to meet our target of, 433 billion GDP by end of the year?
It is the more reason why the vice president, who has the economic management team, has no excuse. Because when you have been in government for more than 4 years, you can really not go back to actually insisting on some of these things. Because you were bent on making a change. The change has not happened.
All right. And of course, there is that further debate, which we can't go into today, about whether or not debt to GDP is even one of the economic indicators with which we should be determining the health of our economy. Bearing in mind there are countries that have over 100%, debt to GDP. That's also something Dr. Bawumia spoke about in the past, but no, we can't get into it today. By the way, the clip we played you was of Dr. Bawumia speaking at a lecture titled "The State of the Ghanaian Economy, a Foundation of Concrete or Straw." It was delivered at the National Theatre in 2016. It's time for us to go for the BBC News. It's brought to you by Fidelity Bank. Believe with us.
I nearly gave up on driving out of frustration. What hadn't I done? Purging, replacing electrical parts, changing my fuel pump, and still the engine noise in my car wouldn't stop. Then I met this guy who said I should try Goil Fuel. By the way, my name is Thomas. I did try Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now my car is renewed. Yankongwa!
Goil stocks only higher grade fuels, further enriched with XP3,